All right, ED, you have played against some of the best wide receivers our NFL has to offer. Who do you think is the second best? Because we both agree who the first best is.
Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
I would like to be the all-time receiver.
I think I'm the greatest receiver to ever do it.
Marvin Harrison. Harrison was as consistent a wide receiver as you will ever see.
103 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 12 touchdowns. That's not Marvin Harrison's best year. That's what he averaged over 8 seasons.
Touchdown! The 86 touchdown pass from Manning to Marvin Harrison.
Top 10, I think without question, the numbers are going to say higher than that. I think people who underestimate Marvin just because of who he's been with aren't giving him his just due.
What a hell of a catch by Marvin there.
His career took off during Peyton Manning's second year. From that season until 2006, Harrison posted 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns every season.
He's my #1 receiver ahead of Jerry Rice all time.
In his career, Marvin Harrison averaged more catches, more yards, more touchdowns per game than Jerry Rice.
But you're talking about Marvin Harrison, certainly as one of the great receivers ever.
You know where the Colts are going to go with the football. They're going to throw it to Marvin Harrison, but sometimes you just can't stop it.
Harrison had 7 consecutive seasons with at least 1,100 yards receiving and set the NFL single-season reception record with 143 in 2002.
Marvin, got it! Touchdown! What a catch! What a catch!
Steve Largent, who we all watched with the Seattle Seahawks when they were in the same division with the Broncos. The way he turned around some of the best cornerbacks in the game, unbelievable.
Really? I never thought that in a million years.
Steve Largent.
When people talk about the great receivers in football, they don't mention Largent to me nearly often enough.
Largent's got it! Touchdown, Seahawks!
Steve Largent owns the finest pair of hands in football.
He got open, he caught the football, he scored touchdowns.
The end zone to Largent! Touchdown, Seahawks!
I mean, he embarrassed people with his route running.
He'll run a slant pattern. He'll run it 4 different ways.
He could set up guys and just humiliate them.
Nobody told this guy that he couldn't catch the ball the way he did.
Goes to him in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Seahawks!
But by the time he retired, he had caught more passes than any receiver in the history of this league.
Largent was a model of consistency who held the career receptions, yardage, and touchdowns record at the time of his retirement.
Quick goes short. He's got a reception by Largent, who makes the catch and now becomes the all-time career receiving leader.
Narrowing the focus of your concentration.
Pump it now. Let's throws to the end zone. There it is. Touchdown, Seahawks! Number 100.
The former Seahawk posted 8 1,000-yard seasons despite playing through 2 strikes.
It really was effective. It was immensely helpful.
Your ability to be a great athlete and your ability to be a football player are 2 different things. And I think he was a tremendous football player.
For Largent, he's in the clear. He makes the grab. Touchdown, Seahawks!
So that you're not watching a football, you're watching a tip of a football.
Largent was named to the Hall of Fame's all-decade team of the 80s.
It's the playmaker. Because this right here, how did he get it done? Competition at the absolute highest level.
They starting to say we can't run the damn football.
Going for the bundle to Irvin. Touchdown. Michael Irvin.
He was going to do every route as hard as he possibly could. He would catch the big balls and take the big hit.
Not many people would make that catch.
Michael Irvin, he made the wide receiver the diva. He was the first, to me, big physical wide receiver that we see more of now.
The guy ran a 4.5, play number 1 of the game. He was running 4.5, play number 70 of the game.
45, 40, 30 to the 20. A man to beat. Woodson will get him at the 10. Irvin breaks free.
I will take Michael Irvin over Jerry Rice any Sunday.
He was the heartbeat of 3 championship teams, and he was the guy that made the plays. He was the chain mover.
And I watched both of them a whole lot. I covered both of them.
That's a homer call. When you
was I homer when I covered Jerry Rice's Oakland Raiders?
Well, maybe Michael Irvin poured champagne over your head and you like that and have those memories.
I never even talked to Michael Irvin when he played for the Dallas Cowboys. But look, here's the point.
Let's throw the chance. We'll throw him in any coverage. Let's throw him. I'll go get it. I'll go get it.
Novacek comes out in motion. Here comes the heat. Michael Irvin, still on his feet. He's going to score his second of the day.
Michael Irvin was the leader of 3 Super Bowl champs.
For 12 seasons, Michael Irvin was a showstopper in Dallas.
Michael Irvin was the big playmaker for that team. That was a very simple offensive team. When in doubt, they just threw it to 88. That's all they did.
Before Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco, there was Irvin, the original receiver turned entertainer.
Showtime.
A pump and go. Irvin, touchdown. What a catch.
The player that I would most want in my foxhole in a cold weather game in Washington or Philadelphia or New York against the Giants in the Meadowlands is Michael Irvin.
We'll run on Marty. Let's go. Damn day.
Michael Irvin didn't play in a West Coast. They were just I formation, hand it to Emmett or throw it to Michael.
You ever hear the term biting on a fake? Troy Aikman pump fakes. Watch Aeneas Williams. I got it. Uh-oh. Slight problem. Need help. Aren't going to get it.
And who do you think it is? Michael Irvin.
And here's Aikman going deep. He's got somebody open. Touchdown, Aikman.
As flamboyant as Michael was, I think there are a lot of people who probably misunderstood that for selfishness.
And trust me, he's beating double coverage and people, oh, he's pushed off and he did this. And I don't care. He won a lot of football games for a dynasty.
He was the guy that you had to game plan for. He was the guy that we constantly had to know where he was, and he still made his plays.
Oh, what a play for the playmaker.
Irvin holds the NFL record for most 100-yard receiving games in one season with 11.
See, so what he's going to do is he's going to sell him that he's going to run that pattern. He's going to sell him he's going to run a hook to get him to glide there to hold so he can run by him. He does it, and that's a perfect throw by Troy Aikman.
Each week, he did whatever it took to make the catch.
Rodney Peete. Touchdown. Michael Irvin. Touchdown.
Only Jerry Rice has more career postseason catches than Irvin. He may have been a showman, but Michael Irvin's most memorable act was helping the Cowboys win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years.
Montana, and to a certain extent Bill Walsh, made Jerry Rice. Michael Irvin made Troy Aikman a Hall of Famer. Trust me on that.
If you didn't knock it down, he caught it. Much respect for that dude.
Aikman wants to throw. He pumps once.
on that list of 100, I would argue not only does he deserve to be on it, but he deserves to be a lot higher than where he is.
Irvin is double covered, but he's got it anyway for another Dallas touchdown.
What I do? Make plays. Nothing but make plays, baby.
This guy, how did he create it? He learned from Jerry Rice. How did he get so good? He understood how to run every route that was necessary.
I know you don't want me to shine, but I'm going to shine anyway, because I love me. Believe it.
Terrell Owens. T.O. is second all-time in yards and third in touchdown grabs.
You had those 3 years that were just monster years that, to me, those three are, I can put them up against any three.
That's all I want to hear. Owens at the 30, at the 20, at the 10, 68-yard touchdown.
You know, I feel like my numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I said it from day one.
Going deep, Owens on this side, and just makes the catch, touchdown. I'm in a league of my own. They ain't ready for me.
Like Randy's first 3 years in Minnesota, sensational years.
Everyone I've spoken with who was in the NFL during T.O.'s career said Moss scared them more from a scheme standpoint.
It's just a matter of time.
It is what it is. If you want to look at the character issues, all right, cool. I know who I am as a person.
You're not going to keep disrespecting.
So both of you played in one Super Bowl, didn't win the Super Bowl, but just 1-1.
Right.
And then 6 Pro Bowls for this man, 6 for Randy Moss.
Now doing the Ray Lewis dance. He reaches down, grabs some turf. He's doing Ray Lewis's dance in his face.
You tell me the sport, any sport, that the guy finished second in maybe scoring, or second in home runs, or he was second in assists.
Any way you slice it, that guy's a Hall of Famer.
And he's not in the Hall of Fame.
It's just a matter of time.
You know, at the end of the day, T.O. had a great career.
Who can make a play? I can.
Touchdown machine.
T.O. is a beast. T.O. was Des Bryant before Des Bryant.
Okay, he could take the hits because he kept his body in shape, hard worker, forget the antics.
Oh my goodness, he did not just take the pom-poms.
Grabbing the pom-poms and cheerleading. Who doesn't laugh when you see that?
All fun and games till somebody get hurt.
Good hands, obviously. Yeah. Made a lot of catches, but he didn't have the same hands as some of these other guys.
I told you, they hate to love me.
Randy Moss, to me, is the greatest wide receiver of all time.
I think I'm the greatest receiver to ever do it.
I think Randy Moss is one of the best receivers I've ever seen.
Great cash, homie.
Culpepper looking for Moss. Deep downfield. Up they go, and he's got it. Touchdown! Unbelievable.
Randy Moss, did he not hit the ground running?
Randy is a freak of nature.
He was a freak of nature right away as a rookie.
Right.
Randy Moss is the best young receiver that I have seen, maybe ever.
During his first 6 years in the league, he posted more than 8,000 receiving yards and 77 touchdowns.
The first game of the year that Randy kind of blew me away, there was a play against the Jets.
I've seen Randy Moss do some things that I have never seen another receiver do.
Lots of time, looks, shoots it toward the end zone.
Insane.
Randy had a comeback route on the left sideline, and I got a little pressure. I knew Randy was breaking out of it, so I kind of was partly throwing it away.
Most importantly, defensive coordinators were more afraid of Moss than any player in the NFL, with that fear surfacing his very first year. The former Marshall product was as good out of the gate as any player in league history.
And partly wondering if I'd give Randy a chance to make the play, and I got hit just as I threw it.
Snap to Brady, looks, fires, it is caught near side.
This guy is amazing.
Watched the film the next day. I saw Randy, come down with this incredible sideline catch, and I was like, man, this is going to be a lot of fun to work with.
Brady with time, going back again to Moss. Touchdown, Patriots.
99-yard bomb and change the impact of the game.
I'm coming to play today, so y'all keep y'all eyes on 84, bro.
More than a groundbreaking wide receiver, he was a football force of nature, the likes of which the game had never seen.
We've got a star on our hands
giants in the NFL, Randy Moss.
You don't get a guy who's 6'5", who has a wiry frame, who can high point the ball with the best of them, who is calm in the midst of the storm.
His ability to track the football in the air and come down with it in traffic was incredible.
And he sort of, can we use the word revolutionize the deep pass in the National Football League as a rookie?
That was one of the greatest catches Randy Moss has ever made. What a catch!
I mean, the toe tapping, the speed up the sideline. I mean, he did it all.
Most explosive athlete I've ever seen. Listen, absolute Olympic speed.
There are guys that are quicker at the line of scrimmage than Randy Moss was, but once he got into that second gear, goodbye.
His speed just scared the hell out of people.
Don't be scared of me. I ain't gonna bite you.
Randy Moss breaks a tackle, and Randy Moss races down the sideline, and Randy Moss just outruns everybody into the end zone. He is incredible.
He's gonna go! The 40, and he's 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
Yeah, I mean, he is such an explosive player that even when he does nothing defensively, you have to react to nothing.
It was the first time I realized that there's good players, there's really good players, and then there's elite players.
You don't get a guy with sweet feet like that can move in and out of his breaks. You don't get a guy that can pump fear in the best DBs in the game.
There are going to be nightmares for cornerbacks in the NFL when they go up against Randy Moss.
And then I would look down at their knees, and their knees are sitting there just slowly trembling. And I'm thinking, oh, this guy shook.
Man, I'm a corner. I got to face this guy. I mean, he was treating them like they weren't even out there.
There were times at practice he would do stuff, and it would literally take your breath away.
We had routes where it was just a one man going deep, and Randy could run to any part in the field. And I think that tells you the trust that the whole team had in him.
Tell me this guy is the greatest receiver in the league.
Randy Moss, when you talk about the way he got it done, it was down the field.
I remember being in the slot and looking at Randy, and it was interesting to me because he always stood so tall. He didn't get down in a low stance, and I would look at the DBs. First thing I noticed, biggest eyes I've ever seen.
Watching a secondary as they lined up against Randy, they would be backed off, sometimes 10 yards with the corner, and sometimes 25 yards with the safety.
Culpepper looking and throwing as far as he can throw, it looks like. And the pass is caught by Moss. Touchdown.
This guy is just fun to watch. And Kevin Smith knows that he's in a foot race there and he can't win it.
Look at them boys over there doing all their practicing for the D-ball. Y'all ain't gonna stop it.
They're really playing off of Randy Moss.
And he would still outrun both guys.
He not only beat Kevin Smith, he really beat Darren Woodson.
And he was going to come up with late hands, late eyes, wouldn't give the DB any indication what was happening.
Come on!
The NFL was so unprepared for Randy Moss's combination of size and speed.
The highest leaping ability and the best hands.
And Randy Moss just goes up and just makes it effortless.
Phenomenal athlete.
That was one of the greatest catches Randy Moss has ever made.
Prior to him, you would have a big guy on your team and a small, fast guy. Randy Moss commingled the two.
He could jump higher than anybody, great hands, was so big, it was impossible to stop.
Down there, juggles it. Touchdown!
Randy Moss, in my estimation, the greatest combination of size and speed.
He was the big guy and the fast guy. We had never seen anything like him.
I promise, when you put it up and you see that yoke, you can't do nothing but get your roll on. You can't do nothing but get your roll on.
Moss is up, caught, touchdown. What a catch, yes! What a great catch by Randy Moss. Moss, going around the 20, get it!
So fluid. I mean, a guy looked like he wasn't even breaking a sweat.
Randy Moss could be the fastest player in the NFL.
And he was going to just reach up at the last second and snatch the ball.
He was a nightmare. The guy could do everything you ask for a receiver to do on any given Sunday.
Moss is such a difficult player to place, yet he was so dominant for stretches during his career that
Randy Moss was a difference maker simply because of his playmaking ability. At any point in time, he can catch a 2-yard slant and turn it into 80.
Randy Moss was pretty spectacular.
Without a doubt. Most talented receiver I've ever faced.
You put two guys on him, that doesn't do any good.
Randy Moss was larger than life.
And remember, he wanted Dallas to draft him. Remember what he did to Dallas on Thanksgiving Day that year?
5 catches, 3
1998?
touchdowns.
Whew.
Moss has caught the pass and is in the end zone anyway. Touchdown. Just throw it as far as you can.
This guy is amazing.
He just destroyed the Cowboys. I think he only had 3 catches that day, but all of them were for at least 50 yards.
Randy Moss is one of those guys that we all looked up to. In college, a bunch of us used to sit up and wait for a primetime game to see what Randy Moss was going to do.
That freakish combination of those 4, I don't think we've ever seen before. I'm not sure we'll see again.
I remember Mike Tice one time stopping everything, and everybody in pause, in awe, in shock, and him saying, "That's why this guy is the best receiver in the world."
Airs it out downfield. Randy Moss is there, and he has it. Touchdown.
His immense talent was a crucial element of some of the greatest offenses of all time.
Randy Moss was the main receiver on the 2 highest scoring football offenses ever. Do you think that is a coincidence?
Brian Billick was the offensive coordinator, the highest scoring offense of all time up until that point once he joined his rookie year.
Moss was the leading scorer on the 2 highest scoring offenses of all time, the 1998 Minnesota Vikings and the 2007 New England Patriots.
Even today, when I'm playing with young people, high school kids, I'm throwing the ball. First thing they're yelling out, I'm getting ready to Moss you.
Touchdown. He's unstoppable. Y'all gonna put that in y'all's book. I told you and I told you. Touchdown.
He set the tone for my generation of wide receivers.
Randy Moss absolutely changed the game for a receiver. He's the only guy I know that has a catch named after him.
There's a saying that some of these kids say, and it's, he got mossed. It means you're going up against a cornerback, you jump up, and you snatch it out of the air, and you make a poster out of the kid, like you're dunking a ball.
Anytime a guy's legacy still is with the younger generation, you know that person needs to be somewhere in the Hall of Fame.
60 100-yard games. Past Marvin Harrison, with whom he was tied. Only Jerry Rice has more.
Moss reached 6 Pro Bowls in 14 dynamic seasons, and his outsized impact was felt across generations.
First player in NFL history to average at least 100 receiving yards and a touchdown over the 16-game period.
I've been fortunate to play with some great players over the course of my career. Randy obviously is one of them.
And Brady and Moss hook up on a record catch.
Hey, wake up, voters. I don't know what the hell football y'all been watching for the last 2 years, but there's 2 receivers other than Jerry Rice that must be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Randy Moss and T.O.
Randy can't get in. I don't know who can.
This guy is unreal. We probably won't see another one like him. There's only one Randy Moss, and he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Pump fake by Montana. Launches it for the end zone. Jerry Rice. Oh, what a catch by Rice.
In Super Bowl 24, Jerry Rice finished with 7 catches for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns, as the 49ers won their 2nd straight championship.
Jerry Rice, simply the greatest of all time.
I was a big fan, to be honest with you. I was a coaching intern. I just followed him around and watched him.
I was not playing football, basketball, or anything, but I would run 5 miles or more, and my mom would look at me and she would say, "Son, why are you doing this?"
He owns just about every receiving record on earth.
Gary was exceptional. Then I would chase horses. If I caught the horse, then I could ride the horse the rest of the day.
He had a magic about him.
Touchdown 49ers!
Singled up, he's almost impossible to cover.
Touchdown Jerry Rice!
He's Flash 80 because that's what he had on his license plate.
Jerry's favorite horse was named Pete. He ride like a Cadillac.
He's the most dominant player at his position that I've ever seen.
He changed the way people played that position. The greatest receiver of all time.
And my father was a brick mason, and he would take me to work with him.
But when I started coaching him in Oakland, we nicknamed him the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Launches it for the end zone! Jerry Rice! Oh, what a catch by Rice!
This guy had a 154-mile-an-hour fastball. You could not cover him.
Oh, my! A one-handed catch down the sidelines, one of his greatest catches!
My job was to make sure that my father had bricks to lay. If I was up on the scaffold, I had to catch the bricks.
He wants the end zone! Rice has got it! Touchdown 49ers!
Rice is so far ahead of everyone in receptions, yards, and touchdown catches that frankly, his records will never be surpassed.
Rice dominated the record books, yet his true mastery was of preparation, mind, body, and soul.
Due to both his productivity and his longevity, the guy played 20 seasons.
Jerry Rice found ways to battle back against nature by immersing himself in it.
He could beat double coverage. You could put man-to-man with help over the top. However you want to try to defend him, he can beat any coverage.
Even today, at nearly 50, he can still be found sprinting the same hills he first introduced to NFL films in 1995, following his third Super Bowl win.
Young to Jerry Rice, touchdown San Francisco.
We sent some guys with him to work out a couple times. They'd come back, and that man is crazy. That guy's crazy.
Now you're not even out of breath.
His most impressive accomplishment might have been his 23 touchdown campaign in 1987, which he accomplished in 12 games.
He's running up and down hills. You cannot imagine this guy's stamina.
No, I mean, how often do you do this?
Every day.
His best football was played in a 2-minute drill late in games. Most of the time, guys get a little bit tired. Not this guy.
Rice combined work ethic, explosiveness at the snap, a perfectionist personality, and want to become the standard at the position.
They all know who the GOAT was. They all know who Jerry Rice was. The greatest of all time.
I disagree with that. I don't like it at all.
In this debate, I'm going to be debating over the two receivers that people widely consider the greatest receivers in NFL history. That is Randy Moss versus Jerry Rice.
I think I'm the greatest receiver to ever do it.
Jerry Rice was a great player at the big moments.
I suppose you missed the 1986 playoffs against the Giants.
I think you had a game where you dropped a couple passes, and
I dropped a lot of passes. The brilliance Rice displayed in his first camp didn't carry over to the regular season. The kid who grew up catching bricks suddenly had hands of stone.
Because I think that back when Jerry was playing, and no disrespect to Jerry Rice, because he's arguably the greatest.
What time is it? It's Jerry's time.
Young with time over the middle. Rice can't hang on to it.
The linebackers, and Jones has got up some big numbers. First down from the 17, and that's incomplete. Jerry Rice on the 30. Yeah, Jeff Triplett announced 31, but it was 47. Young's pass. Somebody with the speed of a Brent Jones. There's Rice.
Boomer just throwing that ball badly.
The throw, incomplete. Young's pass on a slant to Jerry Rice, incomplete.
Out of time for Young, intended for Rice.
Through to the hands of Jerry Rice.
Out of time for Young, now runs out of it. Hits Rice, he's dropped, the ball is loose.
Deep left side, Jerry Rice, wow.
Goes for Rice, who drops the ball on the goal line, covered by McMillan.
That's the automatic response, is to say this doesn't happen very often, and yet I think back to last week, and it happened in their game against Pittsburgh, where the ball hits Jerry Rice and it's intercepted by the Steelers when it bounces right off his hand.
Second down and 3 at the 48-yard line. Young to Jerry Rice on the slant.
This is something he says he's just in a slump, and I mean, that's good pass protection. That ball's right there. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, you can't say that it was bad or behind him or anything. The guy just dropped the ball.
Right through his hands.
You need to score, and you need to do it pretty quickly. And there, unbelievably, is Rice juggling it. Eric Turner intercepting it.
I'm the type to say I'm dope, I'm hot.
You the type to say, what about me? No, you're not.
31-yard line. Young firing over the middle and stop the presses. Jerry Rice drops one.
Writers were keeping track of how many passes he was dropping.
So they don't really know how to catch.
Now, if you throw the skill set in there, you throw in the variables, and you throw in the quarterbacks, you have a very interesting debate.
Randy Moss owns the record for most touchdown catches in a season, and only played with a Hall of Fame quarterback for 2 years of his career, whereas the majority of Rice's career was spent with Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
In my yard, it was Montana to Rice. So, hey, don't make me die, but hey, before we get off the show, can you please grace me?
What did I see in 1998 and 99 and 2000? I saw the most electrifying receiver in Minnesota I've ever seen. He took over games. He took over the entire 1998 season, start to finish. They should have been in the Super Bowl. It was not his fault. They blew a 27-17 lead in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game to the Atlanta Falcons.
I didn't see that.
Okay? Yeah. Did you see that? Yeah, I didn't.
Denny Green was coaching the Minnesota Vikings at the time.
He had huge impact on that game, did young Randy Moss in his rookie year. His first 6 years in Minnesota, I didn't see quit. I didn't see attitude problems. I didn't see desire problems. I saw some off-field issues, but they didn't really hurt the team.
Can you please grace me with a pass so I can say I caught one from arguably the greatest quarterback to ever do it?
I saw him catching balls from the end of Randall Cunningham. Then I saw Culpepper. Then I saw Farad. I didn't see Joe Montana or Steve Young. And I take nothing away from the great Jerry Rice. But he was in one of the all-time most innovative offenses in the history of football, the Bill Walsh special West Coast offense. And he did catch balls from Joe Montana, who has 4 Super Bowl rings, 2 without Jerry Rice, and then again, as Steve Young got the monkey off his back with Jerry Rice in his Super Bowl, both in the Hall of Fame. You have to weigh that in the balance here. So do I have any issue with Randy Moss saying I'm the greatest? No, I have not.
I'm here, Mr. Montana. There it is. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Hey, that's what it is.
My pleasure.
I would do it.
Come on, you got Joe, you got Steve Young, you got 2 great Hall of Famers. I mean, you got 2 guys that came to work every day, 2 guys that was very professional, that wanted to get better. So, you know, Joe, he brought something special to the game, also Steve.
Andrew Walter was just terrible. Vince Young, Aaron Brooks, Brian Hoyer, Rusty Smith, all through to Randy Moss. Spurgeon Wynn through to Randy Moss. All these bums through to Randy Moss, and he made them better.
Difference in catching a ball from a right-handed quarterback and a
different
left-handed.
spin on it. Different spin.
Yeah.
And Steve, he had a different spin, and I had this equipment guy named Ted Walsh, and he was a lefty. And when Steve took over, in between drills, I would have this guy just to throw me balls because it's just that different spin. And I was able to adjust, and Steve and I, we went on to make a pretty good tandem.
You need to look at the players he played with and how he made his players better. Not that Jerry Rice didn't, but Randy Moss did it better than anyone else. So depending on your perspective, or depending on how you look at what is a great player and what is a good player, what is the best player, how do you value that?
Oh, here we go.
22,895 yards, 1,549 receptions, 208 touchdowns.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
Jerry Rice played 300 games.
It helped that he had Montana and Young throwing to him.
I don't really live on numbers. I really live on impact and what you're able to do out on that field. So I really do think that I'm the greatest receiver to ever play this game.
And the game changed a lot. You know, the game has changed. It's wide open. Now, these guys are getting 200 targets a year. The only person who was getting 200 targets a year when we were playing was Jerry Rice.
Rice owns the record debate over Moss. Moss owns the variables and the skill set debate.
That's it.
You know, every
so that's why Jerry had all of
I'm just saying.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying Jerry got a lot of targets.
Because you play with him, and that's what I hear you running the ball. Running the ball.
So for me, it depends on how you value the player. If you look at greatness and you say Jerry Rice is greater because of the stats and it backs it up, or you look at Randy Moss and say, hey, this was the best pure player at the wide receiver position that ever played, then you could make that argument.
You know, I was really surprised that Randy Moss made that comment, because how can you not bring stats in or how you impacted the game?
I know this might be a little illegal, guys. I just put a little spray, a little stickum on them, you know, just to make sure that texture is a little sticky.
A lot of players depend on the tack-ified gloves to keep the ball in their hands.
Jerry Rice was doing an interview, and somehow he just decides to bring out that he used to use stickums back in his playing days.
When did you start wearing gloves?
I started wearing gloves, I think, my rookie season.
Now, for those who don't know what stickums is, it's something that basically makes you able to grip the ball. It's either a spray or a rub you can put on your gloves.
Hall of Fame wide receiver Jerry Rice, who played in the NFL from '85 to 2004, admitted on Saturday that he used stickum during his playing career, which is a small problem because stickum and other adhesives have been banned by the NFL since 1981.
I believe in 1981 it was officially banned by the NFL because they just said it was a form of pretty much cheating.
Were they sticky?
They were tacky a little bit, but you know, you look at gloves today. Those gloves are the same like the gloves that I wore. You know, it's just real tacky. And
Rice tweeted the following Saturday night. I apologize, people. After doing my research about stickum, the NFL banned this in 1981. All players did it. # equal playing field.
You know, also Jerry Rice, he made a comment saying that everybody used to use it back in the day. You know, everybody. And pretty much Chris Carter was saying, no, that's not true. I never used it before.
Well, Hall of Fame receiver Chris Carter, our colleague who played from '87 to 2002, sent out several tweets over the past few days indicating that he strongly disagreed with Rice's accusation that all players used it. I never used Stickumgate, and Jerry Rice isn't speaking about me or for me. God made my hands. He put Stickumgate on them. Never a need to use anything but my God-given talent, and perfected with a jugs machine. If he used Stickum, JR, referring to Jerry Rice, was cheating.
Now, does that give you an advantage? I don't think so, because when you look at the ball game, and when you got defenses trying to take you out, because they game plan you to not have a big game. I have to be able to run routes. I got to be able to catch the ball. Then I got to be able to run away from the defenders.
But why did they allow gloves in the first place?
I don't know. I think it was something that was just cool.
All right, so Stephen A. Smith, what's your reaction to the tweets by both Jerry Rice and Chris Carter?
First of all, I know both, so in the interest of full disclosure, I'm friends with both. With that being said, Chris Carter was absolutely right to come to the defense of himself, because Jerry Rice can't speak for Chris Carter. Jerry Rice can only speak for Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice doesn't know what everybody was doing. And Chris Carter being a Hall of Fame wide receiver, it was entirely appropriate for him to step forward and to say with the vehemence that he said it, that no, everybody didn't do it because I certainly did it. He came to his own defense and he was right to do so.
In my playing days, I never used it. You can exclude me from them comments that you said, because I never used it before.
Did you add to your gloves the tackiness?
No, I don't think so.
You don't remember putting any? Now you're on record as saying you added a little tackiness.
Well, because with the Newman gloves and stuff like that, they were not as tacky as the gloves today.
The other thing is, I find this incredibly unfortunate because Jerry Rice is universally recognized as the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, although my man Skip would put Randy Moss up in that category.
And Michael Irvin.
And Michael Irvin, neither of whom used Stickum, by the way, and both of who prided themselves and believed they were better than Jerry Rice. So Jerry Rice's stature may very well be hurt by this, because if you're a Randy Moss or you're a Michael Irvin and your attitude is like, you're like, I didn't use any Stickum, well, then you weren't assisted.
And so
the other argument that could be made is that people make the point that if this were a baseball and it was an issue of pine tar or something like that, it would be a national story. So why is this being, quote unquote, figuratively speaking, swept under the rug?
I think honestly this should be washed up under the rug pretty soon. What can you say? You know, it happened. You know, he shouldn't have been using it still, even though it was banned.
Having made that argument, that's a very valid point, which unfortunately for me puts Jerry Rice under the spotlight in a very negative fashion. In 1981, due to Lester Hayes using it excessively, the stickum, the spray, and all of that stuff was banned by the NFL.
Stickum, along with all other adhesives, was banned by the NFL in 1981.
He is acknowledging that he used it anyway. If you are acknowledging that you used it anyway, you're acknowledging that you openly defied and circumvented the rules.
Because in the game of NFL, cheating happens. I mean, it's true.
Did I put a little adhesive spray on those gloves at that time? Yeah, I did.
When you combine that with the fact that one of the things that is untold and never, very rarely, if ever, gets mentioned, Jerry Rice was one of those ultra and ultimate competitors.
These are the first pictures since his retirement of Jerry Rice participating in the Menlo Park Flag Football League. He plays wide receiver.
Anytime, I can beat him on the post. I'm Mr. Post, okay? Boom! Hey, your mom, your dad is not here, baby. It's just me and you one-on-one.
He pushes off on every play, just like his whole career.
Oh! I like this type of party, baby. I like this party. This is my party. It's JR's day, baby. It's JR's day. How?
Guys recognize and still give him props for being the best because he ran the greatest routes, he had the hardest practice habits.
It was supposed to be this low-intensity rec league, and all of a sudden this old Bronco guy shows up.
Bunny, you in trouble?
It's kind of lame.
He also played for the 49ers.
He did?
Too easy, Bunny. Too easy. Oh! Damn, I'm good. I'm good.
He worked his butt off catching bricks from his dad growing up and stuff like that. But they also said,
while admirable, Rice's maniacal drive impacted his relationships in the locker room.
He was never inclined to help anybody, to work with them, to help make better receivers. They considered him incredibly, incredibly selfish.
He was labeled as, probably not a good teammate at one point in time, selfish, things of that nature.
How? How? What's up, man? Hey, why didn't you throw it to him, man?
Because he was open.
Hey, but I'm always open. I'm wide open, always, always.
So every Thursday, he sends out this massive email with all of his statistics. He's the only guy in the league that keeps track of yards after catch. I think he'd be bigger than that.
Deion couldn't cover me. He can't cover me.
I bring that up because now that this has happened, it wouldn't surprise me at all if guys came out of the woodwork to try and hurt somebody's reputation that is universally recognized by us all as the greatest wide receiver ever. It's unfortunate. I wish Jerry Rice luck in dealing with this matter. I'm sorry that he has to deal with it, but he opened his mouth and opened the Pandora's box, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to shove aside.
But at the end of the day, Jerry Rice should have kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, but you look at the receivers today, the gloves that they are using, they're tackier now than when I played.
Because he was the main one talking about the Patriots in this Deflategate situation. And now you turn around and you got this going on for yourself?
I also know and like Jerry Rice very much personally, but he is coming across right now as a towering, all-time hypocrite for blasting the Patriots for, to quote him, point blank, I feel like it was cheating against, obviously, the Indianapolis Colts. And he said that in that game, the Patriots had a decided advantage, even though the balls were legally inflated, obviously, at halftime. So Jerry got caught. He got backed into a corner, and he reached for the I didn't know it was a rule excuse, which is a little hard for me to believe. He was covering his gloves with stickum. So not only did he wear gloves, which gives you a little better grip, he is just, and there's some images of them on the internet that you can see. They show the gloves up close. They were absolutely just caked with stickum, both gloves. And then he got further pushed back into a corner, and he said he reached for the everybody is doing it excuse. Well, Chris Carter called him on it. Nope, I wasn't.
But what I think he should do, just shut up before he dig himself in a deeper hole. Just shut up.
Odell Beckham doesn't make that catch without a glove.
No way.
No.
But I think it was the most incredible catch ever. I really do. And
Jerry was throwing stones from a glass house, to quote biblical scripture. You know, like that's what you're doing, because you were living in a glass house because you were cheating. And I can make the case that Jerry Rice using illegal stickum on his gloved hands gave the San Francisco 49ers at least as much of an advantage as allegedly the Patriots have gotten from slightly underinflated footballs. At least as much advantage, since he was, by all accounts, the greatest receiver of all time and the driving force behind 2 of Joe Montana's Super Bowl victories, and then he went on, obviously, with Steve Young. So the Patriot fans are screaming bloody murder here because he looks like such a hypocrite.
But do they have a distinct advantage, today's generation, over your generation?
No, because I still think you got to be a complete athlete. You got to be able to run routes, and you got to be able to catch the football.
I haven't watched the whole interview, but he should have just kept that to himself, because now people are going to look at him different.
There's no question about that, and that's unfortunate because, I mean, you know, I like Jerry Rice personally. I know you do. We know his work ethic, his greatness is not to be questioned.
No.
But when you are so ultra competitive that you're perceived as an individual who never reached back to really help guys, your contemporaries, meaning other wide receivers, you know something like this, guys are going to come out of the woodwork and say, wait a minute. You sat there and snubbed your nose at us, and you were doing this?
Jerry Rice is the GOAT. Jerry Rice is the GOAT. But then you ask the guys around the league at that point, and I remember asking Torrey Smith and Frank Gore and guys that you respect around the league, and they were all saying, well, we grew up and Randy Moss was that guy. He was the receiver of the generation.
Best deep threat in the history. Don't know how long they've been playing, long time. It's him.
Jerry Rice was never traded.
And obviously it wasn't because of his skill sets, because Randy Moss can ball. To me, he's the second greatest receiver in NFL history.
He was cut twice, however.
I remember going to the Super Bowl a few years ago down in New Orleans. It's 49ers versus the Ravens. And I remember Randy Moss saying that he believed he was the greatest receiver of all time.
I think I'm the greatest receiver to ever do it. Because I think that back when Jerry was playing, and no disrespect to Jerry Rice because he's arguably the greatest. But for me to be able to go out here and change and revolutionize the game from a single safety to a cover 2 safety and dropping 3 guys deep, dropping 4 guys deep, and still be able to make it happen, that's why that I really hold my hat on that I really feel in my heart and my mind that I am the greatest receiver to ever play this game.
Can you believe that Randy Moss thinks he is the greatest wide receiver of all time?
Why is that crazy?
Because everyone knows that Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time.
Why is he the greatest?
Look at the stats. He is the all-time leader in receiving for every category: touchdowns, catches, and yards.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the leading scorer in the NBA history. Does that mean he was a better player than Jordan?
You played the same position on the same team at a very high level. What'd you make of his comments, GOAT, greatest of all time?
Well, in the last 30 years, Randy Moss is one of the great receivers. I would say he's in the top 5, probably in the top 3. Jerry Rice being number 1, T.O., Randy Moss, those guys are in the category.
Let's not forget Reverend Isaac Bruce has got similar numbers to both of these guys as well. He's been waiting.
But he's not in the same category.
No, he's not in the same
Randy
category.
Moss.
Correct. He's not in the same category. He'll enter the discussion, not for very long. But when it comes to Randy Moss, Peter, you nailed it when you said he's a generational player. 6'4", the fastest guy on the field. The jump ball aspect of what he could do, the way he changed the way defenses had to adjust to play the Vikings, and anybody playing Randy Moss is a huge difference. I think that's what sets him apart.
Jerry Rice, it's just undeniable the greatness that he has.
Would he have the most receiving touchdowns if he wasn't using stickums? We don't know. Would he have not dropped the ball? We don't know. But so now people are thinking that really helped him not drop the ball, have so many touchdowns, have so many receiving yards, have every fucking record in receiving, period.
Jerry Rice's focus and durability, that's what gives him a tremendous advantage over any wide receiver.
And I go with Randy Moss because he's too good for you. And sometimes he's too bad to have on your team. And that's my list of the wide receivers through the history.
I would pick a motivated Randy Moss over any receiver in the history of the game because he is the best pure receiver ever.
He was the greatest.
There you have it from a guy that played against all these guys, Eric Davis.
I got them all, too.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, Chris. There it is right there.